You gave me some knowledge. That was awesome. Hey, to start off, there's no updates on injuries or anything like that. Sorry, guys. So that's going to be the answer on the injury questions. And let's go.
Questions for Coach? Mark.
All right, Coach. So LSU has won 48 straight non-conference games at home. Obviously, there's something about the stadium that gets into people that haven't seen it. You said you haven't seen this place before either. So what do you think Death Valley represents?
Someplace where there's a great home field advantage, and I haven't been there. I've heard coaches talk about it and how difficult it is to win there, and looking forward to our opportunity to go try. But I hear it's an outstanding deal. It's something that you need to do as a coach and kind of like cross it off your bucket list, so to speak. So it'll be interesting.
And will you let your team enjoy any of the extracurricular stuff that goes along with it, or will you?
What do you mean, like getting hit by really big, fast guys? I think it's all part of it. You got to take that stuff in, and you got to be able to lock it back in when you get to the game. Whether you try to keep it away from the team or not, it's going to happen. They're going to feel it, so they might as well embrace it.
Coach, down 17-10 to Central Michigan, and you scored 31 straight points. What did you learn about your football team over the weekend?
I was just really proud on how they locked in. Obviously, we had some mishaps. We had some turnovers. The defense made some big plays. The offense put the ball on the ground in certain situations. But I just thought they really stayed locked in, and they did not get distracted based off of what they had to do mentally. And I thought physically they were really into the game.
Dino, you said a couple times last year that your timeline when you become a coach, when you kind of expect the system to be in full kind of gear, is year 2 between games 4 and 6. We're entering game 4 now. How do you feel about the timeline with this Syracuse team?
I think based off of the last game, it's probably about right. Again, I don't know when you talk about the newness and guys being hurt and not being here the entire first year. But I'm not going to back away from the statement. This isn't when we normally get going. It just happens to be the toughest, some of the toughest games on the schedule, and that's how they fall. So we got to see how we do.
Coach, with LSU this weekend, obviously we know how difficult the challenge will be, especially in that road environment. But just like the Virginia Tech game last year, it's an opportunity for you guys. Is that something that you're saying to the guys?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, it's football. You always have a chance. What is it, 48 games that they haven't lost to a non-conference opponent. They're a good football team. They're different than us. Their home field advantage is real. That's a real home field advantage. All their players are 5-star guys. I've only met or got a chance to know really one guy from Louisiana. And when I was at San Diego State, my first job was to go talk to Marshall Faulk and try to get him not to go to the pros as a junior. And I had a conversation with Marshall, and Marshall said he was going to the pros, and that was it. And they didn't even want him as a running back at LSU. So, I mean, who do those guys have that they don't want Marshall Faulk as a running back? So, I mean, it's a very, very talented football team. We got to understand that, and the environment and the situation is extremely special that they play in.
I'm curious, when you look at Geis on film, what do you see, and who kind of has the unenviable task of being him on the scout team this week?
We've got a lot of guys, and none of them are going to be him. But we got a lot of guys that are trying out for the role, so to speak. But I think he's a very, very talented back. He's different than the starter from last year. I think he's more complete. I think he can catch passes. I think he can run, and he's tough between the tackles. He's one of those guys that gets 6, 8, 10, then he goes for 20, then he goes for 40. I think he's more of a complete back, and he's going to be very difficult to stop.
Obviously, you guys run tempo, get longer games. We talk about depth and the necessity that comes with that. Facing a back like that, is there anything you can do, maybe rotate guys in a little bit more just to be ready for, keeping up with them at the end of the game?
I don't know if we rotate guys through, we may not even get to the end of the game. I mean, we need to put our best guys out there and try to play our best. Those guys are really good.
Matt?
Dino, what would you attribute to the third down defensive success through 3 games thus far? You guys are top 10 in the country, third down D.
I just think that the kids are doing a great job in practice. I think our scout teams are doing a really fine job. I think my hat goes off to the defensive coaches, Coach Ward. They're doing a really nice job. Now that the teams that we got coming, that we're playing now in the next couple of weeks, it's really going to show, and we need to continue to do the exact same thing, and we're going to have a chance to compete in those games.
back.
Coach, with LSU losing to Mississippi State this past week, it kind of showed a little bit of weaknesses with the Tigers. Curious if you've seen much film of that game and what do you think could be exploitable coming into next week?
I got done with that tape 10:30 last night for the third time. I started at 4 a.m. yesterday. And the big thing I just got through talking to the coaches is that, hey, we can do this, we can do that. I'm like, we're not Mississippi State. We can't do that. Our left tackle can't do that. Our tailback can't do that. It's two different teams. So we've got to try to attack them a different way. To say that we can take the Mississippi game plan and do it with our athletes that's not smart. Okay, we've got to do what we do, and hopefully things will work out.
Coach, you talked about at the beginning of the year building the underbelly of your team, building the depth. Well, injuries have started to creep in now. What have you seen now moving forward with this football team?
I think we're doing a good job of that. We're getting young people in the game. We had the kickoff return, and Rex Culpepper made one of the key blocks that sprung Sean Riley. So we've got a lot of young guys in the game. They're making some mistakes, but every week they're getting better and better and better. And I think that them playing special teams and getting those late fourth quarter reps in certain types of games are going to help their confidence when we need them in a tight game coming up in the next 4 or 5 games we got coming up.
Coach, I was wondering about the the humidity and the heat down there, and how much maybe practicing inside the dome all week with the heat up here, and how sticky and hot it gets in there. Is that something you thought of, or will try to prepare for that one?
You go down there, you're talking about hydration. The first thing you want to do when you go to an area that can dehydrate you is make sure that you're hydrated. So going and practicing and dehydrating your team so they can be hydrated for the game, what you want to do is make sure they're hydrated when they get there, and they're hydrated well enough so they can finish the game. That's the way to do that.
Devin Butler, the cornerback.
Thank you.
Yeah. He told me at Notre Dame he mostly played on the outside, and he's been in the nickel most of the year. I guess what went into that switch, and what have you seen from him in the nickel package in general?
Well, the nickel, a lot of times they line up against the Irv Phillips of the world. A lot of times teams will take their receiver, and when they get into those third downs, they'll move their best receiver inside. So that guy has to have a lot of coverage skills, but he's still got to be able to come up and play the run just in case they decide to run the football. I think Butler's got both of those skills, and I think he's doing a nice job for us.
Going back to Central Michigan for a quick second, that third quarter, the way all facets of your game played, it was 17 points on offense, shutting them out on defense. For you as a coach, was that a moment where you're saying, this is what we're supposed to be doing, and everything was clicking? You were really happy with what the guys were up to?
I really was. If we were going to play that game to the end, the fourth quarter would have been even better than the third quarter. I mean, they were getting exhausted on both sides of the ball. We were moving at a very fast tempo and a very fast pace. We were operating at a high efficiency, and the drops were down, the turnovers were down. That's what it's supposed to look like. Now we've got to see if we can go out there and duplicate that again against some other opponents.
I think it was always pretty clear Josh Black was big for an end. But why was kind of now the time to move him to tackle?
It has to do with trying to balance out the areas and making sure that we've got enough players at each position, enough rotation of players that we can get through the schedule that we have to play.
Was that something that you thought would come in time once you guys got Alton and Brandon kind of into the program? You
don't want to look ahead on that kind of stuff, but it's an advantage that we have, so we have to try to take advantage of it. We've got a lot of ends, which there's one big guy that might be able to go inside, so we did it.
Time for 2 more questions. Mark?
Are you concerned at all that your best running back right now seems to be your quarterback, especially going into these tougher games? And I know you got McKenzie out there a little bit. You're trying to find somebody to kind of get that unit going.
You look at the, I want to say Dante. Dante had the big run that was called back for the holding call. That was about a 40, 50-yard run. I know what the official said, and it was holding. There's no gray in that. But you put that run on to Dante, and what would Dante ended up with? Close to 100? Over 100? A little bit less?
He averaged 3. So he would have been around 90.
He'd have been about 90 yards. We're not that far off with our tailbacks. We need to keep doing what we're doing. And when we don't get that holding call on a play like that, we'll be really close to where we're at. I promise you, if one of our tailbacks get to 94, 95 yards, they're going to get 100. Take that to the bank.
Last question for Coach.
Come here.
Dino, have you been impressed with what the growth you've seen from Sterling in terms of the punting game? Looked he had a couple inside the 20 and even one or two inside the 10.
You know, I've been blessed to have been around a lot of good punters, and even at Bowling Green, I think Davison, our punter, he's still punting for Bowling Green. I think he's an NFL punter. I think Davison's an NFL punter. I think Sterling's an NFL punter, and nothing surprises me with what he can do when the ball's on his foot. I think he's exceptional, and I think he's going to be kicking for a long time, not only on Saturdays but on Sundays. Okay, thanks, guys.